Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question to the Minister for Social Development and Employment. Does she stand by her reported statement that it would be preemptive to rule anything out because the government was still working its way through extensive recommendations by the Welfare Working Group?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, yes, the extremely popular announcement made by the Prime Minister last weekend was the first response to the Welfare Working Group report. Over the next few months, we intend to make it clear to the public what direction welfare reform will take if National has the privilege of leading New Zealand after the election.
The Honourable Annette King.
Parliamentary question, Mr Speaker. Who is right? The Minister who ruled out in March a card which would control the purchase choices of beneficiaries, or the Prime Minister who ruled it in at the weekend, or the Minister who said yesterday the card was only for 16 and 17-year-olds and 18-year-old sole parents because they are a special cohort, or the Minister who said she wouldn't rule out an extension of the card to more beneficiaries today, or the Prime Minister who said there's little interest in extending the payment card to other beneficiaries?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, as I've been quite clear on, my response to that correspondence was actually on the basis of a letter from one correspondent, which is on something very, very different than the payment cards that we have announced last Sunday. So incredibly different from that. Look, our ministers are working their way through a range of options. The payment cards actually are going to work for those 16, 17 and 18-year-olds, teen parents. I think they're going to be really valuable for them and helping them manage themselves and their money, and actually in the case of teen parents, see their children better off.
The Honourable Annette King.
Entry question, Mr Speaker. What did she mean when she said on Radio New Zealand this morning there is a difference between a credit card onto which whole or part of a benefit is loaded and which restricts the purchase of alcohol and cigarettes, and a payment card onto which the whole or part of a benefit is loaded and which restricts the purchase of alcohol and cigarettes, or are they the same?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the member hasn't actually quoted me correctly from this morning. So the credit card that was being suggested by the correspondent was incredibly different to what the payment card is that we have done for the 16, 17 and 18-year-olds.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. In light of her comment that extending the payment card to other beneficiaries cannot be ruled out, what work has the government and her officials undertaken on the cost and the workability of such a card?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, as I've said previously, ministers are working their way through the recommendations and will be making announcements in due course.
The Honourable Annette King.
Mr Speaker, how much of a young person's benefit will be loaded onto the payment card? Where will they be able to use it? For example, a farmer's market? Will it be available to all retailers? Will retailers need to make changes to their systems, and how much will it cost them, bearing in mind that it could affect businesses from Kaitaia to Invercargill?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, now that's a good question. So around that stuff is that we have already introduced the cards for hardship assistance, because what used to happen under Labor was a letter was handwritten, was then taken along to a supermarket that the beneficiary had to identify. They had one place they could shop, and that was very limiting. We've opened up those cards to, for example, the Mad Butcher, to fresh fruit and vegetable shops in the area. Some retail outlets have come on board with it, like Farmers and Glassons and the Warehouse. We are looking at other retailers that might like to get on board with it. It will give people more choice, and it will work really well.
The Honourable Annette King.
Mr Speaker, why did she say yesterday the purchase of alcohol and cigarettes by young beneficiary is a side issue, when the Prime Minister made a major feature of it in his announcement at the weekend, bringing loud cheers and whistling from the party faithful?
Mr Speaker, I think the Prime Minister mentioned the restriction of cigarettes and alcohol once, and he mentioned the word support more than 25 times. So actually support and wrapping it around those young people is the main issue, and one that we are proud to be fronting.
The Honourable Annette
Supplementary
King.
question, Mr Speaker. Did she advise the Prime Minister before he made the announcement about restricting 16 and 17-year-old beneficiaries from purchasing alcohol and cigarette that is already restricted by law, is illegal to sell to them? And if so, did she suggest that a hard line could be taken on those who illegally sell to minors rather than blaming the young people?
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, the restriction of cigarettes and alcohol is also extended to those that are 18 years old that are teen parents as well through the payment card. I think what the member hasn't picked up is actually they're getting an in-hand allowance as well. And actually, if they really wanted to, they can purchase whatever they like with that. So it is just what the payment card is actually restricting, and it's exactly the point that it is the payment card and not the in-hand allowance.
Question number 3, Te Roro Flavel.